Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out the range to talk about the AK, but wait, not just any AK. It's a brand new American-made AK that's an improved AK, if you will. It's definitely in the AK family, but it's got some pretty interesting tweaks to it I think you're going to enjoy. It's made by Texas Weapon Systems, and people are just now starting to talk about it on the internet. I'm going to start off today's video, though, with a classic AK. This is a milled receivered gun, which will tie into our gun for today's video. It's just a beautiful classic rifle, classic lines, underfolder stock, and a downward angle slant cut receiver. Just a beautiful, beautiful gun. Some of my favorite AKs. So we're going to start off shooting this bad boy, then we're going to take a look at this Texas Weapon Systems rifle I think you're going to like. A lot of folks ask me, how can I get involved in the firearms business in that particular community? And one of the best ways to do that is to become a gunsmith. Every gunsmith I know is just overbooked with work. It's a very good living. And so if you would like to become a gunsmith, you need to go to a gunsmithing school or become an apprentice for an existing gunsmith. But Modern Gun School is an accredited college that also works with veterans in the GI Bill, where you can go and get a degree from accredited college in gunsmithing and then go out and start your own gunsmithing business, which I think is a really great option. Again, throughout my entire life, gunsmiths have always been able to earn a really good living, assuming they have a really strong work ethic. So please check out Modern Gun School. I do have a link in the video description below. Here it is, guys, the new Texas Weapon Systems IK103 series rifle. It is a very interesting gun. You'll notice it's fully decked out. We have rails that run front to rear. When we get into the shack, we'll break it down in detail, all the features of the gun, but this will give you an idea. This is a fully kitted out rifle. Think of it as a custom AK. It's going to come to market at a pretty salty price of right around $2,300, so it is not inexpensive, but it's 100% American made, and it uses all premium parts, and it uses the Texas Weapon Systems dogleg top cover system that you see here, along with their new railed handguard. It's a US made barrel, all sorts of stuff. Again, when we get into the shack, we'll talk more about it. One of the things I really like about this gun is that the AK is, generally speaking, not a very good suppressor host. The guns generally are overgassed just to be reliable anyway. Then when you put a can on them, they just start to beat themselves to death. This gun has its own gas system, which we'll go into more depth, but this allows you to adjust it for suppressor use, which is why I have the Explorer 300 can on the end of the gun here. Has a 5/8x24 thread on it, and then on the hub I just have an ASR mount, ASR muzzle device on the gun. So this allows me to run this AK suppressed, and it works really, really well with a baffled can. You can also put an OSS on there and not have to mess with the gas settings, but I want to demonstrate how this regulator works, which is really, really cool. All right, so let's do a little bit of shooting with the gun, then we'll head into the shack and start talking about some of the features. I want to thank our friends over at Primary Arms for sending this rifle out to me. This is a pre-production sample. They use this to evaluate it to see whether or not they wanted to carry it. And then when they were done with that evaluation, they sent it to me so I could do an evaluation and post today's video. Now, one thing I did notice between this and the spec sheet that's a little bit different, again, this is a pre-production sample. The production gun, at least on the spec sheet, should have an enlarged charging handle on the rifle. This one doesn't have that. But aside from that, this one should be exactly like what is going into production, and they should be available soon, I think. I'm not quite sure what the delivery date is on them, but they are coming to market shortly. All right, so let's take a closer look at the IK103. Again, it's in the 100 series, but I believe this is the 103 model. So we'll start off at the rear here, kind of work our way forward. I'll talk about how I have it configured with my favorite optic right now for fighting rifles, which is this little Primary Arms. I call it a Cyclops. It's a prism sight, and it's about the size of an MRO red dot sight, but it has an etched reticle, illumination, all sorts of good stuff. And these are some of my favorite sights, so you see them all over many different guns I have here at the Military Arms channel. So let's start off here at the rear, work our way forward, and we'll talk about the features of the rifle. So back here, we have a Magpul CTR style stock with an M4 buffer tube that screws directly into the Sharps Brothers receiver. It is an MB47 receiver, and this is all machined, so it's a machined receiver, much like this Chi-Com rifle, but just more modern. And they've machined into the rear of the receiver the ability to accept this stock and the tube. So that makes this extremely rigid as compared to some of the adapters that just kind of plug into the rear and set into the screws, the tang of the existing system for a wooden stock or a polymer stock. This is very robust. And then back here on the rear of the receiver, we have QD mounts for slings. And then we've already talked about the receiver itself. Inside the gun, we have a CMC trigger mechanism. It's a modular trigger. And when I open the gun up, I'll show you what the trigger looks like. But it's a nice trigger. One of the best triggers I felt on an AK. It is not too light, has great take up, a good shelf, does not like bump fire itself by accident when you're shooting it off a bench. A lot of the super lightweight AK triggers will do that. This one works really, really well. And then on top of the gun, we have the TWS, Texas Weapon Systems, dog leg top cover. Now, this is not a new product in concept, but they've now married it to their new rail system here, and this is where the hinge point is. So this allows it to open up just like, say, like a crink style upper. And then when it goes back down to be seated, just give it a whack, and it should re-zero itself. It has a tensioning device right here on the side, which you can see, which you can also adjust. And it's just a simple cut that you can bend this so it gets tension against the receiver. And then there's a taper cut to the guide rod for the recoil spring, which will help to auto center the top cover when you snap it down. Now, we have noticed that if it is off a little bit, an inch or two at 100 yards, after you do this, after you shoot it a few times, it'll automatically center itself, and then it goes right back to being zeroed. At least in our testing, we've put 300 or 400 rounds to the gun so far. Moving forward, we have on the receiver, this is a Krebs custom enhanced safety lever. So this is something you can put on your AK if you want to. You can pick them up from Krebs, but it's already on the gun, kind of a high-end part. Here we have the mag release, which is large and kind of flares out on both sides for ambi use, and it works really, really well. Now, we've had good luck with a wide variety of magazines. I like using the Magpul magazines. It works nicely with it. They fit nice and snug in there. There's no play that people worry about. AKs work just fine even when their mags do wobble generally, but it fits nicely with the Magpul magazines. Everything fits very smoothly. Speaking of smoothly, the bolt, which is all forged, the bolt and everything is very smooth on the action, as you would expect from a machine receiver type AK. So the fitment's really, really good. Moving forward, we have the Texas Weapon Systems rail, and this is really cool. So this might be the first product. There might be others out there. I'm not aware of any, but this allows you to have a rail on the handguard that is at the same height as the rail on the top cover. Many times the rail on the top cover would be higher or lower than the rail out here, and because they weren't made together. You'd use a Midwest Industries rail and a TWS top cover or a Krebs top cover, which is even higher than this one. So this allows you to get everything on the same plane. Then AKs have a hole right here in the receiver, even the AKMs, and the handguard itself has a little wedge that goes down in there, 2 tightening screws that as you tighten them, it draws this up tight against the receiver, and this is your primary mounting point. It's not a true free-floated handguard, but it's really, really close. You will see right back here, there's a little band that goes around the barrel. Most of, again, the weight and everything and the support's going to come from this mount to the receiver, and then everything that goes on up here with the top cover, but it does have a little band around here. Now you can access the barrel and everything by taking screws out. If you were to shear a screw off because you over tightened it or anything like that, they've gone so far as to put little holes, pilot holes down here that would allow you to drill the screws out so you can still get your gun apart, put a helicoil in there and put a screw back in if you were to over tighten something or break it, which is pretty forward thinking, right? A lot of companies don't think about those types of things. So it's a 2-piece system, bottom piece, top piece, pick rail across the bottom, pick rail across the top, and then at the 9 and 3 o'clock positions, we have M-LOK. Gas system. So this is completely different than pretty much every other gas system I've seen on AK, kind of similar to the M10X, which is more of a SIG 550 copy, which is a copy of the AK to some degree. But it's not like that SIG's gas system. It looks similar, the plug looks similar, but it's still designed differently. It does not have a gas tube that runs all the way back to the receiver. The gas tube runs about halfway back to the receiver. This gives you 6 positions. You have a 0 position, which is gas off for manual operation, or you could drill it out to your own custom gas setting, which would be here. Then you have position 1, 2, 3. Those will be for suppressor settings to tune them. Okay, so you have 3 different settings to get it to run with different suppressors. And then you have a standard setting, which is just for normal operation without a suppressor. Then you have an adverse setting, which overgasses the rifle for adverse conditions, guns wet, dry, whatever, muddy. And so it's very easy to figure out where you're at. Just go all the way down, that's 0. That's position 1. The gun with this particular suppressor runs great on position 1 and is one of the softest shooting guns of the AK type I've ever fired, even with the can, which would generally cause the recoil to go up because it overgasses the gun, causing the bolt and carrier to move more quickly. This thing is a pussycat, easily the smoothest shooting AK. And what's nice is you have those different settings, plus you have that 0 setting again that you can draw out to your own custom setting, which we've done here at the Military Arms channel before. Have a 16-inch US made 4140 chrome lined barrel with a 1 and 9.5 twist in it. And so then in the end we have the 5/8 by 24 thread, which then allows me to, my can's coming apart here, which allows me to put standard muzzle devices on there for 30 cal. In this case, we have an ASR muzzle device, and then on this particular can, we have an ASR mount, obviously, so it works together. All designed for modern American type shooting, which is awesome. The fact that this gun is designed to work very effectively with the can really makes it appeal to me, because if you watch the channel, you know that I like to suppress everything I possibly can. All right, let's do some more shooting with the gun, and we'll give a demonstration of how it returns to 0. We'll field strip it, show you what it looks like on the inside, get a closer look at that trigger, and just have some fun with the gun. So it's a little bit of shooting with the rifle with and without a suppressor. Right now the gun is set up to be shot without the suppressor. I have it on setting 4, so it's 0 is off, 5 is adverse, and you have settings in between. So I have it on setting 4, which is regular operation, no can mounted, just some PMC ball. Have 20 rounds of it in here. And we'll blast this off. Then I'll grab a suppressor. I'm going to adjust my gas setting. I'm going to turn it all the way back. That's off. That's suppressor setting 1, which this gun seems to like, which is a minimal amount of gas. Another 20 rounds of PMC. Such a great shooting rifle. Once I get that suppressor setting to its lowest setting, and with the can, it even smooths out more than just without the can on its regular operational setting. Extremely smooth and easily the best suppressor host in an AK I've ever fired. One thing I forgot to mention in the previous segment is that it has a Hogue grip on it down here, very ergonomic grip. All right, so let's field strip this gun. First of all, we want to make sure the weapon's empty, so I've removed the magazine. I'm going to pull the bolt to the rear, make sure the chamber is empty, the gun is safe. Now I can begin the disassembly process. With AKs, it's all the same even with this rifle. This is how you take them apart. You have a little tang that sticks out through the back of the top cover here. You'll push in on that tang and then pull up on the top cover. It'll hinge open, and that'll give you access to the inside of the gun, and everything from there is standard AK fare. All right, so I'm not going to go into great detail of how to field strip an AK. It's been covered ad nauseum on the internet. So when you get inside here, you can see the machined receiver. Here's your ejector, all machined into the receiver itself. There you can see that modular trigger system. It's like a little cartridge that sits in there. It's a self-contained trigger that just pins right in. And again, that is easily one of the best trigger systems I've ever used in an AK. Really, really like it. Not too light, just right. Great feel, great shelf, great everything. Love that trigger. So that's it, guys. I mean, now, I know some of you are going to go, well, what about the cleaning rod? You don't need a cleaning rod on this one. No, there's no cleaning rod or provisions for one. So there you go. Pretty darn cool. Very simple. If you like the AK like I do, I mean, this is really kind of a very neat evolution of the gun. All right, go ahead and put her back together. Pretty simple. So let's do a simple test to see if this thing returns to 0. I'm going to use some PMC ammo. It's not the most accurate ammunition. I'm just burning it off because I have it on hand. And we're all set up at 100 yards. We have a challenge steel target down there. It has 3 dots painted on the man-sized target on the right. I'm going to aim at the bottom dot. I'm going to fire 5 rounds. Then I'm going to open the top cover, slam it down, and fire another 5 rounds. We'll see how she holds 0. All right. Oops. Going to extend that just a bit. All right, 5 rounds. All right. Woo, look at that gas from the suppressor. Slam her down. One thing I do, oops, is this. So after I put the top cover down, I'll do that a couple times. Put the mag back in. And another 5 at the same point of aim. So, as you can see, at 100 yards, it goes right back to about the same zero. It's really hard to see that there's much of a zero shift at all. Sometimes I've gone down range and noticed about an inch, but as I said earlier, the more you shoot it, it'll just start to come back to its original zero. So when I do set this thing, or when I did set this thing up, knowing that, because I've messed with these top covers before, I'll put the optic on, I'll cycle the action, shoot the gun a little bit, then I'll zero it when I know the top cover is settled, and then I can go about my shooting, and then when I open up the top cover, put it back down, shoot it, or run the bolt a few times, get it to settle back in, it should go right back to zero. So that is a really cool option. The AK is one of those rifles that was kind of drug kicking and screaming into the modern era. A lot of purists look at something like this and go, ooh, sick, AK is fine, you know, comrade. You'll see those memes pop up, but for those of us that like to put modern optics on it, you want a laser designator, you want a hand stop or something like that on here, this rifle lends itself quite well to that. So again, about the only downside I can see to the gun is it's a little bit heavy, but not ridiculously heavy. It has a great trigger on it, but the other downside would be, of course, the price tag. $2,300 or so. A lot of people are going to scoff at that because that's getting you into custom AK area, but I would argue that this is about as custom as an AK can get in terms of how it's set up. So, very interesting gun. If you have any questions, ask those questions down below. I'll try to stick around for the first couple of days and answer questions you guys might have. But also, if you want to have direct access to me, the best way to do that is to get on Patreon, become part of our Patreon family. There's a link in the description below. Once you join Patreon, you can email me and contact me, and I'll answer your questions directly. Also, right here on YouTube, you have a little join button and a thanks button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Mash either one of those buttons, and you can support us right here on YouTube in the age of demonetization. Last but not least, please swing by and check out Copper Custom. Thank you for 15 years of support, and we'll talk to you guys soon.